What do we know about the very end? Hitler in the bunker. The moments, the days, the weeks, the months leading up to the suicide, all those kinds of things.
It's quite well documented because people at the time were keeping diaries and writing about it, writing about the experiences. Also, Morel wrote quite a bit what happened in the bunker. One thing that changed was that Eukodal was not available anymore. So the drug that Hitler actually had become physically addicted to was suddenly not available anymore. This had to do with the bombardment of the Merck company, the factory, in December 1944. British bombers destroyed the production facilities. And Morel, there's a report of Morel, the overweight person riding on a motorcycle through bombed out Berlin from pharmacy to pharmacy, basically going into the pharmacies, trying to score Eukodal, and he couldn't find it anymore. It was nowhere to be found. And that's when Hitler goes into withdrawal. What I find surprising is that he didn't use another opioid because morphine was available all the way till the end, but he never kind of made that switch then. Like, he didn't realize for a long time that he becomes physically dependent on a drug, that he becomes a drug addict. But this realization happens in the last weeks in the bunker, because Goebbels, he understood it. And Goebbels wanted that bedroom, the second bedroom. So he said to Hitler, do you understand what's going on? That Morel turns you into a drug addict. And Hitler's like, and at one point he realized what Goebbels is saying is true, because he felt the withdrawal. He was shaking. He felt like shit. And Morel is like giving him weird stuff in the end. Like one time he gives him harmine, which is an MAO inhibitor, which is part of ayahuasca, actually. Because he still had that in his doctor's bag. It hadn't been used yet, so it gives him that, which also creates some kind of a weird high. But, Hitler at one point realizes really what's going on. This is late April, so very late in the game. And there's a few reports of what actually happens. Like some say that Morel has to kneel in front of him and that Hitler puts a gun on his head and says, you've been making me addicted to opioids, get the hell out of the bunker. For sure, he fires him that day, and Morel is described as being in tears, like leaving the bunker. He gets one of the last planes out of Berlin. He has a research lab in the south of Bavaria, close to the Berghof, and he makes like one of the last or the last plane out of Berlin.
He survives.
Yeah, and he goes to this research lab, and this is like May 2nd, 1945. He has like a little apartment in his research lab. His wife is still in Berlin. He's like all alone, and he starts doing his taxes. And that kind of shows you that he was probably insane at that point,
Just totally out of touch.
Why would you do your tax? Maybe he was bored, maybe it's like he didn't do his taxes for so long because he always had to treat Hitler, and then he thinks like, no, what am I going to do? I'm just going to do my tax. At least I'm going to do my taxes now. Very German thing to do.
He's just a strange character. I mean, you tell this hilarious...
I would put that in the movie for sure, him doing his taxes.
That's how the movie ends.
Well, then the Americans move into Bavaria, liberate Bavaria from National Socialism, which was a great job they did there. And so I'm also thankful not only to the Red Army, but also to the American forces. Really very thankful that because National Socialism was hard to beat. It was a beast, It was hard to beat. So they capture Morel and they interrogate him, and he actually lives for another 2 years in American custody in Germany in a military prison. And after these 2 years, his health's really bad. He has heart problems, and the Americans dump him in front of the Munich train station in a much too small kind of uniform jacket, like probably an American uniform. And he's like lying on the pavement in front of the train station, and a half-Jewish nurse kind of walks around there, finds him, and he says, I'm Theo Morel. It's really like in a movie. I'm Theo Morel. I was the personal physician of the Führer. It's like, this is 1947. Germany's in ruins. And she brings him to a hospital. His wife comes from Berlin for a last time they meet in the hospital at Tegernsee, beautiful lake in Bavaria, and then he dies. So that was the end of Morel. So we know pretty much what happens in the end.
Did somebody try to talk to Hitler about this? Like, what about Eva Braun? Has anybody close to him try to talk about
Well,
that?
Goebbels did.
Well, that at the very end, but you would imagine maybe the generals or friends or inner circle. I mean, that the reason I mentioned Eva is because, like personal and people close to him.
There is a certain tension between Eva Braun and Morell, and I could very well imagine that she talked with Hitler about it, but there's no record, so I don't know exactly. But they had a very intimate relationship. So Eva Braun was not just the dumb blonde that plays no role. They actually spoke every day. And when Hitler was in the military headquarters, he would phone her every night at 10 p.m. They would have a long phone conversation. So they had a very deep relationship. And I'm pretty sure she didn't really like Morell because, for the obvious reasons. He was closer to Hitler than herself. And, if you count 1 + 1, it's 2,
But she could have maybe not liked him because she might have cared for Hitler. And you can see the effects of drugs on humans that you care for.
She also had a good relationship with him at times because he was often at the Berghof. The Berghof was like the what is it called? Mar del Lago.
The Mar-a-Lago, yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of what it was. And it became an official headquarter for Hitler, so he would actually make decisions from there. It was not just a vacation place. And Morell was often there, and Eva Braun was always there. That was her place. She was running that place. She was like the woman of that place. And Hitler was often, of course, in the field, in the headquarters, but he came as much as he could to the Berghof because it's quite beautiful. I went up there. It's quite interesting. And she also had a good relationship with Morell, and there's like a paper that I found where like they were very intimate and very close. Like there's a paper of Morell where she comes to him in the morning and she has like scratch marks. So apparently they had violent sex. So Morell is like also kind of witness to that. That I found in Washington, D.C. in the National Archive.
Hitler and Eva had violent sex? What do we know about Hitler's sex life? It's like not known, right?
I found it interesting that Morell describes these scratch marks. I mean, it's interesting. So they had some kind of kinky sex, maybe. Maybe they also had normal sex, and sometimes it was kinky, or maybe Hitler was aggressive in bed. But it doesn't really matter. It's just what happened between Eva and him.
Yeah, I don't think that affected military operations of the
drug use did. His sex, if he would have had sex with like a lot of people, maybe with his generals, maybe then, it would be worth writing about it because maybe he dominated his generals in bed or something, but he was just having sex with Eva, and I don't think that's historically relevant. It might be interesting for the movie, but also I don't want to see Hitler having sex.
I don't think anyone wants to see Hitler having
sex. But Eva
sex.
Braun is an interesting character because she had more of a say than historians for a long time attributed to her. Then a biography was written on her by a female German historian, and that's a very good biography. It really shows that she had, quite a lot to say in this relationship. She was not the dumb blonde that just, she was quite, opinionated and active. So and she was filming him a lot. Like she was always filming in the Berghof. You can go online and look at the Eva Braun clips, and you will see Hitler in color at the Berghof, how he's like meeting children, petting their head. And, she was contributing to the myth of the private man, the good private man. So Eva Braun is an interesting character for sure. But I found one note that she, in the beginning, when Morell started with his drugs, said to Morell that she wants the same drugs, the same medications, not drugs, the same medications as Hitler. So she would be on the same wavelengths with him. She didn't want to lose this world. But I mean, Hitler became such a polytoxicomanic user that, of course, Eva couldn't keep up with that. They weren't a drug couple. I didn't see any evidence for that they would like take all the crazy drugs together and then have crazy sex or something like that. That's not how it was. So I think she was sympathetic to Morell in the beginning and then changed her opinion. And I'm pretty sure she talked with Hitler about it, but there's no records about their private conversations.